What's up, guys? How you doing? All right, this segment, we are going to try something totally new. And what we're going to do is we're going to take a viewer hand like we talked about in a previous episode, but we're going to start doing some community hand breakdown. I asked for a hand submission, you guys gave them, and so now we have a chance to review one of those hands. This is from Mr. Gerry Harris Poker on YouTube. If you haven't seen his channel and you're looking for some more content to binge, I will link this video in the description below so you can give him some love, give him a shout out, and say hi to Gerry if you haven't seen him before. All right, really quickly, just a disclaimer. I don't want this to be Sean reviews a hand and you guys then take what I say and apply it. That's not the goal of this segment. I don't think I'm smarter than you. I don't think I'm a better poker player than you. What I do think is that it benefits all of us to work on poker together as a community. And so what I want to do is I want to go through a hand history. I want to think it through all together. And you guys might be asking questions. You might be providing feedback. The point is the discussion. It's not, did we play it right? Are we the best poker player? The point is discuss hands, get into them, and think through poker together. The more time you spend analyzing spots, thinking through spots, and being challenged on your own decision making, the better you will become as a poker player. And I want that for all of us. I want all of us making more money, making better decisions, and being better poker players. So Gerry sent this hand. It's a good one, and I want to review it with you guys. Something we want to do with this segment is we want to take one positive thing and say, man, that was good, and make the goal of coming up with one negative thing, something that we say, even if it's not a terrible play, just this might be room for improvement, or here's something I might do differently. This is something you want to try to do with, if you're like texting back and forth with a friend, right? You get a group and you do hand histories together. Try to come up with one positive thing and one negative thing. It doesn't mean that that's a limit or that you have to come up with it. If it was played perfectly, it was played perfectly. But if you make that the goal, I think you're going to find more things that can be improved on. And really, we want that critique. As much as our egos don't want to hear the critique, it's good for us. It makes us better players when we get feedback and a chance to develop our game better. So let's do that with this hand. So this hand is 1-3. Gerry's in middle position. He's got 375 in his stack, and he gets pocket eights. He opens to $15, and the hijack and the cutoff both call. They go to a flop, which is very, very nice for this hand, and it is 5 of diamonds, 8 of spades, 5 of clubs. So we have flopped the joint now, feeling great. And so what I like here is that Gerry decides he's going to check. Now, you can definitely bet this. It doesn't mean that you can't, but the thing I like about a check here, if you ever read Dan Harrington on Cash Games, which is an old book and not the first resource I would recommend to you, it's a good one, but it's not amazing for the current game. Anyway, Dan Harrington on Cash, I read it a long time ago, and the thing that he says is that on a board like this, you've basically, he calls it sucking the air out of the room. You've hit the board so hard that it's hard for your opponents to have anything. What he suggests in a spot like this is you're going to either bet small or you can check and allow your opponents to make a move. And I like what Gerry does here. He decides to check, and he's got 2 players behind him, and the opportunity for one of them to feel like it's a good spot to steal. Maybe they have a pocket pair, maybe they have some overcards, and they're just going to go for it. So I like this plan and I like this play. He checks it, and it gets over to the cutoff, who gives him an absolute gift by betting $40. So not just betting, but betting like 80% pot. This is really good. So you can't ask for a much better scenario there. And I like what Gerry does. He just chooses to call. If you start telling the story that your hand is weak, or that you're bluff catching, or you're in a spot where you have some value but you're a little bit nervous, the best thing to do in that spot is to continue to represent that condensed range. And so I really like what Gerry does here. The turn comes down the Jack of Hearts, and he's going to continue to tell the story. So he goes ahead and checks, but this time the cutoff checks back. So now we go to the river, and the river is the 5 of hearts. On the 5 of hearts, this hand now comes in fairly disguised. We've been checking up to this point, but I don't think we want to check again. I think after the opponent checks back on the turn, it's unlikely they're going to be betting the river and bombing really big, because if they had a hand that they felt good about, they're probably going to bet it on the turn, and the 5 doesn't, I mean, it barely changes things, but not enough that I think they're going to feel great all of a sudden and want to bet big. So I like that Gerry chooses to lead here. Gerry, you chose a bet size of $50, Personally, I think I'm going to choose a bigger sizing, and the reason is this. When you get an opponent in a spot like this, I think you want to be betting more like 80% to 120% pot. Now, exploitatively, I think you can bet on the smaller side. If you feel like an opponent won't call a big bet, but they will call a small bet, then I do like that strategy. However, in this spot, this is a great position to be polarized in. You want to represent that you have absolute air or a monster and make your opponent miserable. And so I think what I'm going to choose in this spot is to probably go a pot-sized bet. And what that does is it's going to balance out our range not only for when we actually have it, like right now, it's also going to balance out our range when we want a fold, and we're gonna bet really big to try to get max leverage and maximize our folding equity. So I think the best thing that we can do in this spot is just to size up a little bit, because know the opponent's not going to call often, but if they have something like, let's say that they have a pair, they have a jack, maybe they have pocket nines. So they have a boat, and they have to decide if you are bluffing, if their boat is better, if it's worse. Like, they're in a pretty miserable spot. They have to call at some frequency. And so they're going to make a lot of mistakes when you make this big bet. They're going to fold probably more than they should. They're also, when they do call, going to get punished for the maximum amount. And though it feels terrible to miss out on value at times when you have a big monster like this, it does so much work for you on the bluff side of the game that I think it's worth having this balance where you're gonna polarize big with a bluff and you're gonna polarize big with the nuts. And so I think this is a great spot to bet bigger. Either way, I like the bet. I like the way you played the hand overall. I think I would just go for more value and then balance out your range on the river. However, the opponent makes the call, which is great news. He doesn't show the hand he mucks, and so Gerry takes down a nice pot here with the flopped boat. So, what do you guys think? What is your feedback? How would you handle this hand if you were in Gerry's shoes? Leave your comments and feedback down below. We want to really just try to improve one another, help one another, and build each other up so that our games improve as a community. If you are not part of the DOS as of right now, click that red subscribe button. That makes you part of this community, and we're going to continue to do these hands moving forward so that we can all improve. Hope you guys are well. Thanks for watching. See you next time.